Hi, I'm Peter J. Ray. Welcome. Today's topic is the 1909 Cleveland Naps MLB baseball season. Again, the Naps were playing in the American League, the junior circuit of Major League Baseball, and they were playing at League Park, actually the final year of League Park's existence as a wooden grandstand before it would become the very familiar and memorable concrete, brick, and steel structure which we know and love, although that's mostly gone now. The Naps in 1909 had a tough year. Expectations were sky high because they finished one half game out of the pennant, a half game from the World Series in 1908. But and you wonder if they were haunted by that, because 1909 was a very tough year. They finished in sixth place, a record of 71 and 82, 11 games under 500, winning percentage of .464, 27 and a half games out of first place. Very tough year. First place team again was the Detroit Tigers, were 98 and 54, led by Ty Cobb. Their winning percentage was .645. Second place was the Philadelphia Athletics, 95 and 58. Third place, the Boston Red Sox, 88 and 63. Fourth place, the Chicago White Sox, 78 and 74. Fifth place, the New York Highlanders, 74 and 77. Sixth place, the Cleveland Naps, 71 and 82. Seventh place, the St. Louis Browns, 61 and 89. And finally, eighth and last place, the Washington Senators, 42 and 110, winning percentage of .276, 56 games out of first. So once again, Washington was first in war, first in peace, and last in the American League. Now there was a big change in Major League Baseball. New concrete and steel ballparks were replacing the fire hazard wooden structures. In 1909 was sort of the beginning. Shibe Park in Philadelphia was built with 30,000 seats, and that became a very familiar stadium for Philadelphia Athletics home games. Sportsman's Park in St. Louis was another new concrete and steel stadium, had 18,000 seats. Forbes Field in Pittsburgh, another new stadium, had 25,000 seats for the Pittsburgh Pirates games. Now, League Park attendance was down in 1909. Total of 354,627. That was seventh out of the 8 teams in the league, an average of 4,666 per game. And this was the last year for League Park as a wooden structure. After the season, on September 7th, the dismantling of League Park began, or League Park 1. The Plain Dealer reported, quote, "Men swarm the grandstand pavilion like an army of ants and a mountain of sugar. Owners Kilfoyle and Summers are sparing no expense to give the fans in Cleveland the best that their money can buy." The companies involved in this construction were Osborne Engineering, and the construction was done by the Hunkin Brothers Company and the Forest City Steel and Iron Company. As I said, there were high expectations for 1909, and a really tough year. People were disappointed, and the media became very critical of the 1909 Cleveland Naps. David L. Fleitz reported, he was the biographer of Napoleon Lajoie, quote, "The Naps could not help but feel the waves of negativity from the fans and the press." On July 15th, the Naps were in third place, 5 games out of first, and that was the high point of the season. After that, they faded and finished way down, and it was a tough year. Again, Napoleon Lajoie was the player-manager, at least at the start of the year, our starting second baseman and manager. His record as a manager was 57 and 57. As a player, he hit .324. He hit 33 doubles, 7 triples, a home run, 47 RBIs, 13 stolen bases, and 128 games. Lajoie was with Cleveland from 1902 to 1914, and he resigned as manager in the middle of the season, or actually about 2/3 of the way through the year. And he had this to say, quote, "Maybe the players would do better with someone else running the club. I'd like to keep playing for you." Now, this is a letter he wrote to Charlie Summers, the owner, "but I'd suggest a new manager." So that was on August 17th. David L. Fleitz wrote this quote, The loss of the 1908 pennant by a mere half game gnawed at Napoleon for the rest of his life. The lack of a baseball pennant was a gaping hole on his baseball resume. On June 23rd, Lajoie was playing first base in a game against the Chicago White Sox. The White Sox base runner, Patsy Dougherty, collided into Lajoie at first. Lajoie got a sprained wrist and an injured hand. His hand became very swollen, and the fluid needed to be drained, and he was out for a month. So that was a tough loss for the team. After his resignation, Lajoie said this, quote, "I am glad to be relieved of the worry. It is a great load off my mind. I want to continue to play on the team and to do my level best." The Cleveland Press newspaper had another contest to rename the team since Lajoie was no longer the manager. One fan suggested the name Bullets, and he wrote this, quote, "For that's what it takes to kill the Tigers." So the Tigers were the number one. Of course, they had edged out the Naps in 1908 by a half game. Now, the fans voted to keep the name Naps, so the name did not change. And one fan, a guy named Ben Baumstein, wrote this, quote, "No matter whether Larry is manager or player, as long as he is the mighty Lajoie and a member of the Cleveland team, the name Naps should be kept and made a synonym for champions." Lajoie's 324 batting average was third best in the American League behind Ty Cobb and Eddie Collins. Napoleon Lajoie. Now, he was succeeded as manager by Deacon McGuire, whose record as manager was 14-25. McGuire had been a player for the Cleveland Blues baseball team in 1888. He returned and played a little bit for the Naps in 1908 and 1910, and he was the manager for the Naps for the last part of 1909 through 1911. He started the season as a coach on the team, helping Lajoie, and then became the manager. Now, the rest of the starting lineup, besides Lajoie at second base, we had Ted Easterly was the catcher. Easterly hit .261, 14 doubles, 10 triples, a home run, 27 RBIs, 8 stolen bases in 98 games. Easterly was from Lincoln, Nebraska. He died in Clear Lake Highlands, California in 1951 at age 66. Career average of 300. Really good for a catcher or anybody. 8 home runs, 261 RBIs. Easterly played for the Cleveland Naps, Chicago White Sox, Kansas City Packers. Between 1909 and 1915, he was a good contact hitter. Between 1910 and 1912, he went 3 straight years where he hit more than 300. And in 1911, he led the American League in pinch hits. 1914, in the Federal League, he had the third highest batting average of .335. Ted Easterly. George Stovall was our first baseman. Stovall hit .246, 17 doubles, 10 triples, 2 home runs, 49 RBIs, 25 stolen bases in 145 games. Stovall was with Cleveland from 1904 to 1911, so kind of an off year for George Stovall. Neil Ball was our shortstop in 1909. Ball hit .256, 13 doubles, 2 triples, a home run, 25 RBIs, 17 stolen bases in 96 games. Ball was from Grand Haven, Michigan. He died in Bridgeport, Connecticut in 1957 at age 76. Career average of .251, 404 hits, 151 RBIs. Ball played for the New York Highlanders, Cleveland Naps, and Boston Red Sox between 1907 and 1913. He won a World Series title with the Boston Red Sox in 1912. On July 19th, 1909, Ball had performed an unassisted triple play, the first in Major League Baseball history. He also later was a coach for the Baltimore Orioles minor league team, and he trained Babe Ruth. He coached Babe Ruth when Ruth was a minor league player, and they remained friends throughout for the rest of their lives. And as a result, Neil Ball became a New York Yankees fan because of his friendship with Babe Ruth. In the 1950s, there was an annual bowling tournament in Bridgeport, Connecticut, named after Ball. And early in his career, he was playing for the semi-pro Three Rivers, Michigan team, and he played a game against a team that had Rube Foster, who became a Negro League star. Neil Ball was purchased by the Naps from the New York Highlanders on May 18, 1909 for $5,000 because the regular shortstop Terry Turner was injured. Now that unassisted triple play was on July 19th. He caught a line drive off the bat of Amby McConnell of the Red Sox, stepped on second to retire Heine Wagner. There were runners at first and second. Then he tagged Jack Stahl, who was coming in from first. The play was unprecedented. Players were not sure that the inning was over. The crowd was puzzled. And Cy Young, who was the pitcher, asked Ball why he was leaving the field. Finally, the fans realized what happened and everyone had an ovation for him, and his teammates applauded. In the next inning, Ball hit an inside-the-park home run, his only home run of the season. After the game, Neil Ball said this, quote, "I am mighty glad I happened to be the one who was in the right spot and able to pull it off. Just think of the wonderful plays that Larry Lajoie, Terry Turner, and Bill Bradley have made since they have been in the major leagues. But yet they never had the chance to do what I, a utility man, a sub, did. It was just my good fortune to be in the game when such a chance was offered." If you go to the Hall of Fame, his baseball glove is there, and you can see it. Now, in 1912, when he won the World Series, he only batted once in the World Series and struck out. However, he received a full World Series share of $4,025. The Ottawa Star reported that Neil Ball was, quote, "the luckiest man in baseball." Now, on that unassisted triple play, both runners were running on the pitch, so it was a double steal. And with respect to this triple play, one baseball writer wrote, quote, "No one among the 10,000 persons in the park said anything for a full minute. They were too stunned by what had happened. The Boston players didn't know right away that there had been an unassisted triple play. Then pandemonium reigned suddenly, and Neil Ball was congratulated by all his teammates as he came to the bench. The game was delayed for 20 minutes as the groundskeeper had to clear the field of hundreds of hats that were thrown on the field by the fans in the stands. 8 days later, American League President Ban Johnson gave Neil Ball a gold medal studded with pearls and diamonds as a commemoration for that feat. So that was really something. Neil Ball. Now our regular third baseman in 1909 was Bill Bradley. Bradley had a very tough year. He hit 186, 6 doubles, 3 triples, 22 RBIs, 8 stolen bases in 95 games. Bradley was with Cleveland from 1901 to 1910. He had a serious attack of typhoid fever in 1909. And there was a rundown. Ty Cobb had been caught between third and home. There was the throw to third base, and Cobb kicked Bradley's glove, knocking the ball loose. Bradley's thumb was slashed open, and he was out of the lineup for several weeks. Bill Bradley. Now the outfield, regular outfielder, was Bill Hinchman. Hinchman hit 258, 20 doubles, 13 triples, 2 home runs, 53 RBIs, 22 stolen bases in 139 games. And this was Hinchman's third and last year in Cleveland. Bill Hinchman. Wilbur Good was another regular outfielder. Good hit 214, 6 doubles, 5 triples, 17 RBIs, 13 stolen bases in 94 games. And this was Wilbur Good's second and final year in Cleveland. Wilbur Good. Joe Birmingham was the third regular outfielder. Birmingham had a pretty good year. He hit 289, 10 doubles, 5 triples, a home run, 38 RBIs, 12 stolen bases in 100 games. And Birmingham was with Cleveland from 1906 to 1914. Joe Birmingham. Now the bench players included George Paring, who played some third base. Paring hit 223, 10 doubles, 9 triples, 20 RBIs, 6 stolen bases in 88 games. And Paring was with Cleveland from 1908 to 1910. George Paring. Briss Lord played some outfield. Lord hit 269. He had 67 hits, including 10 doubles, 3 triples, a home run, 25 RBIs, 10 stolen bases in 69 games. Lord was from Upland, Pennsylvania. He died in Prince Frederick, Maryland in 1964 at age 81. Career average of 256 with 13 home runs and 236 RBIs. Briss Lord played for the Philadelphia Athletics, Cleveland Naps, back with the Athletics again, and Boston Braves between 1905 and 1913. He won World Series titles in 1910 and 1911 with the Philadelphia Athletics. After his playing career, he was a manager in the minor leagues. He owned a car dealership. Also, he was the owner of a pool hall in Chester, Pennsylvania. He also worked for the Delaware County Juvenile Home in Upland, Pennsylvania. Briss Lord. Elmer Flick played some outfield. Flick had an off year. His career was winding down. He hit .255, 60 hits, 10 doubles, 2 triples, 15 RBIs, 9 stolen bases in 66 games. And Flick was with Cleveland from 1902 to 1910. Elmer Flick. Terry Turner was a middle infielder, really our regular shortstop, until he got hurt. Turner hit .250, 52 hits, 7 doubles, 4 triples, 16 RBIs, 14 stolen bases in 53 games. Turner was with Cleveland from 1904 to 1918. He was disabled for 100 games. Turner had a serious beaning in August of 1908, in other words, hit in the head. Back then they didn't have batting helmets. And in 1909 he was spiked at second base by St. Louis Browns player Jimmy Stevens. And that spiking was to the bone. In other words, the spike of Stevens' shoe went through his foot to the bone, and Turner was out for a month because of that injury. Terry Turner. Nig Clark was a spare catcher. Clark hit .274. He had 45 hits, 4 doubles, 2 triples, 14 RBIs, a stolen base in 55 games. And Clark was with Cleveland from 1905 to 1910. Nig Clark. Harry Bemis was another spare catcher. Bemis batted .187, 23 hits, 2 doubles, 3 triples, 13 RBIs, 2 stolen bases in 42 games. And Bemis was with Cleveland from 1902 to 1910. Harry Bemis. Duke Riley was an outfielder. Riley hit .210, 13 hits in 62 at-bats. He walked 4 times, had 5 stolen bases in 20 games. Riley was from Chicago, Illinois. He died in Indianapolis, Indiana in 1968 at age 83. And his MLB career was just with the Cleveland Naps in 1909. They called him Midget. Duke Riley. Dolly Stark played some shortstop. Stark hit .200, 12 hits and 60 at-bats, scored 4 runs, had an RBI, 4 stolen bases in 19 games. Stark was from Ripley, Mississippi. He died in Memphis, Tennessee in 1924 at age 39. A career average of .238 with 30 RBIs. Stark played for the Cleveland Naps, Brooklyn Superbas, and Brooklyn Dodgers between 1909 to 1912, so this was his rookie year. He was a college baseball coach for the Mississippi State Bulldogs in 1909 before the season, before he came to Cleveland, and had a record of 22-4. And that was in the Southern Intercollegiate Athletic Association. And at the time, the college was called the Mississippi A&M Aggies. He was murdered by gunfire in Memphis, Tennessee. Very tragic. Dolly Stark. Milo Netzel was a utility player. Netzel hit .189. He had 7 hits and 37 at-bats, a double, 3 RBIs, a stolen base in 10 games. Netzel was from Eldred, Pennsylvania. He died in Oxnard, California in 1938 at age 51. And his MLB career was just with the Cleveland Naps in 1909. Milo Netzel. Tom Raftery was an outfielder. Raftery hit .219. He had 7 hits and 32 at-bats, scored 6 runs, 2 doubles, a triple, a stolen base in 8 games. Raftery was from Boston, Massachusetts. He died in Boston in 1954 at age 73. Played for the Cleveland Naps in 1909, so this was the extent of his MLB career. In the minor leagues, he was with the Charleston Seagulls in 1907 and led the Southern League with a batting average of, in batting average, he had 80 stolen bases, which set the league record, and he won a gold watch as the most popular player as the Seagulls won the pennant. Tom Raftery. Bob Higgins was another catcher. Higgins hit .087. He had 2 hits and 23 at-bats, and he struck out 3 times in 8 games. Higgins was from Fayetteville, Tennessee. He died in Chattanooga, Tennessee in 1941 at age 54, a career average of .143 with 2 RBIs. Higgins played for the Cleveland Naps and Brooklyn Dodgers between 1909 and 1912, Bob Higgins. Josh Clark played some outfield. Clark batted 12 times, did not get a hit. He walked twice, struck out once, scored a run in 4 games. And this was Clark's second and final year in Cleveland. Josh Clark. Walt Doan played some outfield. Walt batted 111. He had 1 hit and 9 at-bats, scored a run in 4 games. He also did a little pitching. Pitching record was 0-1 with an ERA of 5.40 and made 1 start. Doan was from Bellevue, Idaho. He died in Coatesville, Pennsylvania in 1935 at age 48. Career record of 0-1 as a pitcher, 5.56 ERA and 9 strikeouts. And Doan played for the Cleveland Naps in 1909 and 1910. Walt Doan. Grover Land was another spare catcher. Land batted .500, 2 hits and 4 at-bats, an RBI in 1 game. Land was from Frankfort, Kentucky. He died in Phoenix, Arizona in 1958 at age 73. Career average of .243, 3 home runs, and 80 RBIs. Land played for the Cleveland Naps and Brooklyn Tip-Tops in the Federal League from 1908 to 1915. Grover Land. Denny Sullivan played some outfield. Sullivan batted .500. He had 1 hit and 2 at-bats in 3 games. And this was Sullivan's second and last year in Cleveland. Denny Sullivan. Now the pitching staff, our ace pitcher was Cy Young, who was back in Cleveland. Young batted .196. He had 21 hits, 2 doubles, 7 RBIs, a stolen base in 35 games. His pitching record was 19-15. Very good. ERA of 2.26. 34 starts, 30 complete games, and 3 shutouts. Cy Young had pitched for the Cleveland Spiders from 1890 to 1898, and he was back in Cleveland, pitched for the Cleveland Naps from 1909 to 1911. The team, he was moved to St. Louis by ownership, and he spent 2 years in St. Louis with the St. Louis Perfectos, became the St. Louis Cardinals. He jumped to the American League, pitched for Boston, won 192 games with Boston. The team was the Boston Americans, later the Boston Red Sox. He returned to Cleveland in a trade from Boston. And in 1909, he won his 500th game of his career. Franklin Lewis, Cleveland sports writer, wrote, quote, "Old Tuscarawas was about to be 42, and there was a gathering around his waist that was not entirely wool." So he had put on weight. He came to Cleveland from Boston in a trade for Charlie Chech and Jack Ryan. Now, during his career, he generally had no interest in postseason barnstorming trips. A lot of the players would try to make extra money after the season by playing exhibition games, but what Cy Young wanted to do was to return to his farm after the season was over. He had broad shoulders, oaken legs, and a barrel chest, a very strong man. As I said, he had gained weight over the years. There was a 1903 cartoon of continental North America tilting toward the Atlantic Ocean because of Cy Young's girth. And the caption was, the fat fossil. Well, there was a quote that he was, quote, the fat fossil from the Ohio Valley. In the off-season, Cy Young would stay in shape by chopping wood and digging coal. There was actually, he could mine coal on his property. He liked to hunt, jog, and tend his sheep and chickens. He also raised corn on his farm. He was an early riser. He said it was hard for him to stay in bed after 5 o'clock a.m., and so he would go to bed early. He did not go to bars, although he would drink a little bit. His wife, Raba, would read out loud to him novels by authors like Charles Dickens and William Makepeace Thackeray. He always pitched hard. He always worked real hard. And he said to ease up, quote, puts the game on the level with lawn tennis, tiddledywinks, or some other schoolgirl frivolity. During one game, Cy Young was taunting Ty Cobb, who was a batter. And he said it was too bad that General Sherman left so many corn cobs in Georgia. They're making a reference to the Civil War. He was never thrown out of a game. Very honorable man. In 1902 in Boston, Young hit a ball over the head of Cleveland outfielder Piano Legs Hickman, and the ball was stuck, wedged in a gap under the scoreboard. Hickman struggled to pry the ball loose. And Cy Young said this quote, "I almost laughed myself out of a home run." And he got an inside the park home run on that play. In 1903, he was considered heavy set. The heavy-set Cy Young stole 2 bases in one game, and the Chicago Journal reported, quote, "When huge Cyrus made the second steal, the earth must have quaked, and the sun must have blinked bewildered." He had actually hit 321 in 1903, so it was wonderful having Cy Young back in Cleveland for the end of his career. Very popular. He was called the grand old man of baseball. Everyone respected Cy Young. Good guy. Now, the second in the rotation was Heine Berger. Berger batted 133, 11 hits, and 83 at-bats, 5 doubles, a triple, 4 RBIs in 34 games. And Berger's pitching record was 13-14, an ERA of 2.73, 34 games, 29 starts, 19 complete games, 4 shutouts, and a save. And Berger was with Cleveland from 1907 to 1910. Heine Berger. Addie Joss had an off year. Joss had been our ace pitcher. Joss batted 100. He had 8 hits and 80 at-bats, a double, a home run, 5 RBIs in 33 games. Joss's pitching record was 14-13, with actually a very fine ERA of 1.71, 33 starts, 33 games, 28 starts, 24 complete games, and 4 shutouts. Joss was with Cleveland from 1902 to 1910. He had back pain. He was having problems with his back in 1909, and he was only 3-10 in his last 13 decisions. Addie Joss. Cy Falkenberg was also in the rotation. Falkenberg batted 173. He had 9 hits, 52 at-bats, 2 RBIs, 20. He struck out 20 times as a hitter in 24 games. His pitching record was 10-9, with an ERA of 2.40, 24 games, 18 starts, 13 complete games, and 2 shutouts. Falkenberg was with Cleveland from 1908 to 1911, and then 1913. Cy Falkenberg. Bob Rhodes was another pitcher. Rhodes batted 163, 7 hits and 43 at-bats, a triple, an RBI in 20 games. Rhodes' pitching record was 5-9 with an ERA of 2.90, 20 games, 15 starts, 9 complete games, and 2 shutouts. And this was Rhodes' final year in Cleveland. He was with Cleveland from 1903 to 1909, and he had really done some fine pitching in Cleveland. Bob Dusty Rhodes. Glenn Liebhardt was another pitcher. Liebhardt had 15 at-bats, did not have a hit. He walked once, struck out 6 times in 12 games. As a pitcher, Liebhardt's record was 1-5 with an ERA of 2.92, 12 games, 4 starts, a complete game, and a save. Liebhardt was with Cleveland from 1906 to 1909, so this was his final year in Cleveland, and he also had done some fine pitching for the Cleveland Naps. Glenn Liebhardt. Carl Sitton was another pitcher. Sitton batted 154, 2 hits and 13 at-bats. He had a double, walked twice, struck out 6 times in 14 games. Sitton's pitching record was 3-2, with an ERA of 2.88, 14 games, 5 starts, and 3 complete games. Sitton was from Pendleton, South Carolina. He died in Valdosta, Georgia in 1931 at age 49. Career record of 3-2 with an ERA of 2.88 and 16 strikeouts. Sitton pitched for the Clemson Tigers, Spartanburg Spartans, Jacksonville Jays, Nashville Vols, those are all minor league teams, the Cleveland Naps, Columbus Senators, Brooklyn Superbas, Atlanta Crackers, Montreal Royals, Troy Trojans, and the Binghamton Bingos from 1901 to 1916. At Clemson College, Sitton played baseball and football. He later was a coach. He coached baseball at Clemson, and his father fought in the Confederacy in the Civil War. In 1902, playing football for Clemson, Sitton had an 80-yard touchdown run in a football game. After his college days, he was playing for the Jacksonville Jays in the South Atlantic League, or the Sally League, and in 1908, he won for the Nashville Vols. He pitched the title game, and Sitton was the winning pitcher. Grantland Rice wrote this quote. He called this quote, "the greatest game ever played in Dixie." In 1931, Carl Sitton was unemployed, and on September 11th, 1931, 2 weeks before his 50th birthday, he drove his car to to the Lowndes County Fairgrounds, parked his car near the baseball diamond, and shot himself in the head in Valdosta, Georgia. Very tragic. Carl Sitton. Harry Abels was another pitcher. Abels batted 12 times, did not have a hit, struck out 7 times, had a stolen base in 5 games. Pitching record was 1-1 with an ERA of 2.12, 5 games, 3 starts, and he completed all 3 of them. Abels was from Terrell, Texas. He died in San Antonio, Texas in 1951 at age 67. A career record of 1-5 with an ERA of 4.04, 41 strikeouts. Abels pitched for the St. Louis Browns, Cleveland Naps, and New York Highlanders between 1905 and 1911, and he studied at Southwestern University. Harry Abels. Another pitcher was Harry Otis, who batted 111. He had 1 hit and 9 at-bats, including a double. He struck out 5 times in 5 games. Otis's pitching record was 2-2 with an ERA of 1.37, really good. 5 games, 3 starts. Otis was from West New York, New Jersey. He died in Teaneck, New Jersey in 1976 at age 89, and his MLB career was just with the Cleveland Naps in 1909. They called him Cannonball, Harry Otis. Lucky Wright was another pitcher. Wright batted 7 times, did not have a hit, struck out twice in 5 games. Wright's pitching record was 0-4 with an ERA of 3.21, 5 games, 4 starts, and 3 complete games. Wright was from Waterville, Ohio. He died in Tontogoni, Ohio in 1941 at age 61, and his MLB career was just with the Cleveland Naps in 1909. Lucky Wright. Jerry Upp, that's spelling U-P-P, his last name. Yup was another pitcher. He batted .222, 2 hits and 9 at-bats, a double, 2 RBIs in 7 games. Upp's pitching record was 2-1 with an ERA of 1.69, 7 games, 4 starts, 2 complete games. Upp was from Sandusky, Ohio. He died in Sandusky in 1937 at age 53, and his MLB career was just with the Cleveland Naps in 1909. Willie Mitchell was another pitcher. Mitchell batted .286, 2 hits and 7 at-bats, scored a run in 3 games. He walked once and struck out once. Mitchell's pitching record was 1-2 with an ERA of 1.57, 3 starts, which he completed all 3. Mitchell was from Pleasant Grove, Mississippi. He died in Sardis, Mississippi in 1973 at age 83. A career record of 84-92, ERA of 2.88, and 921 strikeouts. Mitchell pitched for the Cleveland Naps, Cleveland Indians, and Detroit Tigers between 1909 and 1919. Willie Mitchell. Red Bulls was another pitcher. Bulls batted .167, 1 hit in 6 at-bats, scored a run, walked once, struck out once. Bulls' pitching record was 0-1 with an ERA of 1.99, 4 games and 3 starts. Bull was from Bernice, Louisiana. He died in Monroe, Louisiana in 1955 at age 74. His MLB career was just with the Cleveland Naps in 1909. They called him Sebron Jesse. And finally, Fred Winchell was another pitcher. Mitchell batted .200. He had 1 hit in 5 at-bats, walked once in 4 games. Winchell's pitching record was 0-3 with an ERA of 6.28, 4 games, 3 starts, a save, and 7 strikeouts. Winchell was from Arlington, Massachusetts. He died in Toronto, Ontario, Canada in 1958 at age 76. His MLB career was just with the Cleveland Naps in 1909, and he played college baseball at Princeton University. Now, after the World Series, the Detroit Tigers, who again were the American League champions for the 3rd year in a row, and played in the World Series, and for the 3rd year in a row, they lost the World Series and this time it was to the National League champions, the Pittsburgh Pirates. And it was tough series, 4-3, so the Tigers lost in 7. It was a matchup of the famous Ty Cobb for the Tigers against Honus Wagner for the Pittsburgh Pirates, and Addie Joss actually reported that series. So that's the story of the 1909 Cleveland Naps. A tough year, but you have to give them credit for their efforts because they were out there competing and they had Cleveland on their jerseys. And you can't always have a really strong year every year. So God bless the fellows who played for the Cleveland Naps in 1909 and everyone else associated with the team, including the fans, especially the Civil War veterans and the Spanish-American War veterans. Captains of the Cuyahoga, lovers of Lake Erie, Terminal Tower Power, fans of the Free Stamp Statue and the Fountain of Eternal Life. First Energy Stadium friends, Progressive Field pals, Quicken Loans Arena enthusiasts, Euclid Avenue electricity, Severance Hall stalwarts, Tribe, Browns, Cavs, Monsters, and Gladiators rule Cleveland City of Champions. It's been 70 years since 1948. This is our year. Go Tribe. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Oh, one more thing. Cleveland is the best location in the nation on the north coast of America. New York is the Big Apple. Cleveland is the plum. Thanks for watching. God bless you, and I'll see you next time.